Yeah, speedy.
Cool.
The camera rolls.
Whenever you're ready,
Okay.
go for it.
Take 3.
So what did it mean to have guys like Don and Lavelle
Yeah.
and, you know, David Graham around, you know, when going through that kind of recalibrating?
Yeah.
What do those guys bring into that?
Those guys brought the proof that I was making the right decision. I hadn't brought Don in, certainly hadn't worked with David or Graham until well into the making of the record. I mean, I learned pretty fast. So I was glad it took as long as it took, because even after you learn what's right and wrong for you, you still have to practice it. You know? So I got a lot of practice before those guys came in. But while you're shifting modes, it's very frightening. You think that you're going to disappear completely. And I remember thinking, that's okay if I do, because I don't want to live in this. I don't want to participate in this world the way that it is for me, and the way that I've made it for myself. Certainly not pointing fingers. So it went very quiet, and I wanted it to be. I wanted to be forgotten. I wanted to be the only person remembering me for a while, and at times it felt like I was, which was good because I could work in silence. And I remember making records where no one cared, the best records. No one's knocking on the door saying, "Where is it?" And then when it came back online, but differently, you know, I had to kind of flatline for a second to get shocked in a different rhythm. And when things started to come back online, I think I gravitated towards Don because I liked his energy. His energy made sense to me. And all of a sudden I started gravitating towards this purity in people. They were older. They were less dynamic in the sort of way that you expect to see it in your 20s. Fewer fireworks, you know. More truth and calm and, you know, collectedness. And I was really welcomed into that kind of lifestyle. You know, Don and I hit it off. I had like 3 meetings with producers booked on this one day, and I called the other 2 off because I didn't want to lie to anybody. I would have been lying to them. They would have been telling me what it was they heard in my demos that they could bring to the record, and I would have been entertaining them, thinking that, making them think they had a chance. And when I met Don, and I went, okay, you know, sometimes first hand's a blackjack. That's why card counting's not perfect, you know. And I just became so much more comfortable with the life that I think I deserved. You know, I'm not a cover boy, man. I'm not a cover boy. And if I was, if people are confused now, I think it's that the story's getting straight now and that it was confused before. You know, I mean, when I think about, I'm so much more comfortable now because I feel like my target is so much more within range, you know, of wanting to be a singer-songwriter. Singer-songwriters aren't supposed to be sort of everywhere all the time. Singer-songwriters are very departmental, they're very niche, which is what gives them their power, is that you feel like you're listening to something that not everybody is listening to. And I think I had a moment, which is cool. You know, I'm glad I don't regret any of it, but there was just a moment where I went, well, what about this new construct? You know, I remember thinking to myself, I'm creating a whole new type of celebrity. And I really wasn't, because there's only just a couple types, you know. The type that I was creating was a guy who does this one thing extremely well and is known for this one thing, who thought, let's just be such an enterprise of ideas. I'll do stand-up comedy there. And none of them were fake. They were all really great ideas to me. But what they were was like second-guessing the original plan, which worked. And I always tell people, like, when your first record or your first anything catapults you to a certain level, a certain high level, it's not the standard, like, too much too soon, but it's that if you take your age and you take the success level, you still feel like there's got to be, so the book's got to open further, right? There's got to be more told here. And I think in that sense, it's a really innocent idea that there's got to be more to blossom here. And there is, but only inside of what you've already been so lucky to get. And so there was like this, it's just like exploring and experimenting and saying, okay, A, B, A. You know what I mean? And I feel like this record is the reward for that trip. And if I ever lost sight that that was enough to just be a musician, I would never again, because I just have not done anything ever as meaningful as this record. And I thought about this record every single day. I dreamed this record. I dreamed it last night, you know. And I think it's really important. I think it's an important album. And for me, it completely eludes like worrying about the status of it. I did my job, you know. My job was to look for something deeper, you know. And you can't really look for something deeper unless you've had something happen to you that makes you say, wait, I want to go deeper. And I did, and I feel like I was rewarded for it by having these songs that I can call my own now, that I think are going to be around for a while in my life. I could never predict or expect them to be a certain matter in someone else's life, but to me, it's changed the complexion of my life. I mean, even though I can't tour on it, I mean, May 22nd, it can be a part of other people's lives, and maybe I push it off to sea and I come up with another one, but it's just worth it, man. It's just worth it.
I was gonna say, if that's where you land.
Yeah.
After all the
Yeah.
journey, then
Yeah.
that's what got you there.
Yeah, you know, and I have to really watch myself to make sure that I don't make it sound like the world's greatest crash, because it really wasn't. It really wasn't. Sometimes you need a bit of wind in your hair, even if that wind is from descent. You know, I'd like all the wind to be from ascent, but I had ascended very quickly. I kind of woke up there, and I think everyone gets that opportunity. I call it an opportunity, I guess. Opportunity to look around, to say, but what about this? And then find out, no, you get lucky sometimes in life and you win up front and you have fans and you have unbelievable opportunity to make a record. And I'm probably one of the only musicians in my generation who can convince someone to let me write in the studio for the weekly rate, you know. So all my expectations are like really, really in shape, you know. It's
What
yeah.